This is the fourth and final part of my Civilization VI Abridged campaign. Last time we were gearing up for that culture victory, making tons of great works and wonders. We also took down the Aztecs to our south, so now we have all of their stuff that's going to come in useful. However, China is actually pretty close to winning the science victory, so I eventually decided to go and intervene. I sent all of my military over there, and now we need to do something. They're a couple of stages away from winning the game. They need to do one more research and do 2 launch projects, which is essentially to make a building. So in order to stop them, we have to take this tile improvement right here, the spaceport. Without that, they're not allowed to do those launch projects. So we don't have to go very far to effectively achieve our mission here. We just have to get past one city and blow up that tile, and that would be sufficient. So anyway, I started blasting. We've got our rocket artillery, and the rocket artillery are buffed by the observation balloon next to them, increasing their range. So we can sit miles away and just pummel them. One of the rocket artillery stacks also has the extra range upgrade as well, I believe, giving them 5 range maybe? Basically loads of range, 4 I guess. So we don't have to do very much to take down this first city. Eventually we go in and finish it off after pummeling it for a bit. And that's that, but the spaceport is controlled by the next city along that we can't see right now, so we still have some ways to go. There's going to be some fighting elsewhere as part of this war, because we both have city-states that we're the suzerain of, and they fight each other in the background. They're all forced into the war, so some stuff is happening. We could actually be under threat. I didn't check at all which city-states we're at war with. Some of them could invade our home continent. There's Mont Saint-Michel going up. I was particularly happy to complete that wonder because I'd had spies already discover that Congo was also building it at the same time as me. Looks like we won the race on that one. That will help with tourism. Here at LA, I'm trying to build my own spaceport in case I want to use it. And I'm actually doing some micro for the first time, deciding where citizens should work. You can micro to make the city be producing more of a certain thing. In this case, we want to produce production to speed up the construction of the spaceport. I found it quite difficult to work out how to use this interface, but I eventually got it, and then I never used it again. But there you go, I did do 1 city micro session in the entire game. Now back on the other side of China, you might remember I have some hoplites that were hanging around, and they actually have done something. I blew up one of their diamond mines. So these guys, who have lived very long lives so far, have seen it all. They're still fighting well into the information age. Up goes Big Ben back at home, more wonders for people to look at, a nice big clock. And what time is it? Well, it's time to take another Chinese city. I'm going after Taiwan this time. Not the direction I need to go in to actually get that spaceport, but I'm just doing it for completeness. I'm going to take this corner of their empire entirely. And while I'm here, another first. Some biplanes attack me. We're actually facing aerial attacks. I was looking over here because I remembered I had been making an anti-air unit, but it's going to be a while before it shows up. We could have waited to have them join the army before we started this campaign, but I was anxious that China might actually win that science victory pretty soon. We can't tell how long any of those projects has left on them, so probably safer to just attack as soon as possible. We take over Taiwan with no issues. Congo's mad at us, but that's nothing new. Every faction denounces us all the time, as previously mentioned. And there we actually lose a unit. I had a medic at the back of my stack, and I didn't notice there was this Chinese helicopter hanging out in Russia's territory, and it sweeps in and takes out my medic. Very inconvenient. Well, we can get revenge soon enough because a machine gun team can kill the helicopter in 1 hit. The helicopter is like a light cavalry unit in the game's logic, so it's not very strong. It just moves very far. Anyway, with that out of the way, we have to go for Xi'an, the enemy's capital. That's where the spaceport is attached to, and it's just another case of bombarding them and then eventually having somebody attack it when it's at low health. It was shooting back the whole time, but the city attacks barely do any damage at this late stage in the game, it seems. And that is that. We now have their spaceport. That's going to ruin their projects. I had hoped maybe it would send them back and cancel their science victory. They're still on the verge. This means they could still build another spaceport somewhere else and keep going with it, but the loss of their big, productive areas is going to ruin that for them. We've effectively stopped them winning the campaign and done every civilization on the board a favour, really. Now the game can keep going for a bit longer, which will probably benefit me as we continue to spam out that culture. Here we are then towards the end of the China War. We took their stuff, that's the summary of what happened. We actually do have some more stuff we could take, but I'm not going to. They've got 3 or 4 settlements around the world as little colonies. We're going to let them live. This does leave the outside possibility that they could still go and do the science victory because they'll keep their research. But I already checked and they didn't have a spaceport in their other places. So at the very least it would take them a very long time to come back from this. So I didn't feel like bothering to do the micro of going to kill the rest of their stuff. Well, now we sit back and wait to see if we'll win instead. I've even started doing the science victory myself since I've captured their spaceport. We're also going to switch to be a democracy now. This is because it's less focused on military stuff, and I no longer intend to fight anyone, so we'll take the democracy setup to have different policy slots and have more diplomatic policies instead. It also makes it cheaper to hire great people or something, a mechanic I discovered right at the end. You could actually buy great people instead of trying to get points for them, which I didn't use in this campaign, but now I know it exists at the very least. I entertained myself while waiting by sitting on the edge of the continent here, where we can shoot over this stretch of water towards a barbarian camp that's spitting out mechanized infantry somehow from the tundra. Some sort of James Bond villain style guy with a secret lair spitting out a private army. Blowing them up generates us some culture and actually does progress us a little bit towards the culture victory. Here we are getting the space race completed, a little bit late, so not quite a race I suppose, but we're now doing the science victory using our captured Chinese rocket technology, very handy. I got a bit of a look at what's happening in Yellow's territory using a trader. Everything is on fire. Yellow has gone absolutely downtown. Looks like some guy is driving around in a rocket launcher truck just blowing everything up. And maybe Yellow has no units, they just haven't stopped them. And there we saw it also captured my trader, so we can't see anymore. Interesting though, so that explains why Yellow is disappearing off the map. All of their research generation has gone away. I think all of their campuses just got set on fire by some guys. There I am trying to steal some great works from Russia. Russia has a fair few of the great works, but we can use spies to transfer them to us so they don't get any tourism off it, and we do. We can also enhance our tourism here with our new Chinese territory, because it has some spots that are suitable to be national parks, so we'll throw those guys down. I've made 3 naturalists here, spending most of my faith to buy them, even though there are only 2 zones, because in the past I had seen a different zone available. It was here somewhere. I realised I need to destroy this iron mine that I'd just made to free up another national park zone. We don't really need the iron, we probably benefit more from the tourism at this stage, so there we go. Some lovely national parks, all quite close to each other. What a nice place to go on a tour from a different country, thus making me seem superior. Certainly seems that way. Our tourism score is on the rise. We've got more than half the tourists we need to be culturally dominant. I wasn't quite sure what to do actually to increase tourism more. I figured just increasing my culture production as much as possible was one part of it, and spamming out seaside resorts where I could, which wasn't very many places, and just collecting great works. I didn't bother going with the theming system where you can go through the great works and micromanage where they are physically to increase the tourism bonus. We're just going to skip now to about an hour and a half later of clicking end turn, where we now have the amount of tourism just somehow. It just went up in the background, and boom, we win in the turn after that. So a very rapid conclusion to this campaign. Got to a point when we were going to win eventually, skipped to that eventually, here we are, winning. We get a cutscene explaining we are now culturally dominant. It says something like, you're not defined by your accomplishments or something, while giving me loads of achievements in an ironic twist. We saw some footage there of some guys in suits forcing Middle Eastern guys to do some backbreaking labour. It's all going well. Cultural domination indeed. And that's that. Not too much happens. We made some great paintings, so everybody just decided that we're the best in the world. Even if we die now, everybody else has adopted our culture anyway, so we kind of exist in all of the other factions or something. Maybe that's what the culture victory is supposed to represent. We have this scoreboard. Apparently we're in the middle of the scoreboard. I guess if we played better and got more points, then we would be higher on the scoreboard. Wasn't paying too much attention to the points system, but we certainly played sub-optimally, so lots of room for improvement. And now we have a graph system, always nice to see. Looks like we did the most killing by the looks of things, and quite a lot towards the end. We didn't actually fight that many units in our many wars, we were mostly just fighting cities. Here is some evidence that early on, Yellow jumped ahead of us because they conquered another player. And that player was probably Gandhi, who was listed on the left. We never saw a Gandhi in the game. So essentially what must have happened is that Yellow conquered a second faction early on, doing the thing that I thought I was special for doing, but they'd already done it before me. And that's why Yellow seems to be dominating me when I came to discover them and realized how far in the future they were. However, at some point they just went away. They got blown up by a guy with a rocket launcher as far as we know. And we also took over the Aztecs, and that just gave us more number to work with. And this is a game where number generates additional number. So whoever's winning will win if nothing changes. At some point, our lines cross everybody else's lines, and that's it. We've effectively won from that point. Might be interesting to redesign the victory conditions to take that into account. You could always do something where like the lowest ranked player is eliminated every 50 turns or something to make the games shorter, and mean you're only focusing on fighting your main rival, and if you're better than them, have higher number than them, then you will win, and it could just cut to the chase and say, oh, you'll win eventually. I'm just lazy and I want to skip the end part of most games that I play. Luckily, you're watching an abridged campaign, so you just skipped it reaching this part of the video. Well, I looked at some of the other graphs, nothing too surprising going on. Looks like we did the most line compared to the other lines. And that's it really. I spent some time looking at my great works. You can do this view gallery thing to take a closer look at the things the great people were making. And I suppose these are the things that convinced everyone else, well, we're just the best. We've got this painting of a French alleyway. You can't beat that. This game does have a very narrow-minded, shall we say, view of what civilization and what art and society need to be. So this is about it. What I'm saying is, where's the anime? Well, maybe there's another way to culturally dominate, I don't know. I think there's a massive rant to be had about the outdated philosophical history of this game and how it portrays civilization in general. Very modernist, dare I say, and I don't really dare say it because I don't know what I'm talking about. At least we do have this book called War with the Newts, which is apparently a great work. Well, it does sound like a pretty good premise at the very least, so hopefully that will convince everybody that they need to remain Greek from now on, being Greek is truly the superior culture. Overall, as alluded to previously, I was disappointed by Civ 6. I remember when I first played it back when I did the tutorial, however long ago it was, I was disappointed by that as well. I just thought, well, they've barely changed anything, it's still basically got all the same downsides as the previous Civ games. And indeed it does have them, but worse in my opinion. I think the previous Civ games give you a little bit more freedom about what you can do with your civilization. You can go further into the future as previously mentioned. I just want to see a Civ game where the Civs are different and you get a choice about where to take them, so that you get different gameplay mechanics based on what your decisions were. I understand that these are supposed to be multiplayer games, so it's very simple and boring in order to facilitate balanced multiplayer. Well, I suppose I don't like it. That's all I can say about it. I think recently that game that came out, Humankind, was one that was promising to be more like the thing I wanted, but all the reviews seem to be talking about how it wasn't like that, which disappointed me even further. I might play some other 4X games though, because there are other Civ-likes that might happen to satisfy me in some obscure way. I just like a game where you press end turn and everything is done for you and you just watch it happen. I'm too old to press buttons on the keyboard. Well, we'll see. Next I'm going to be playing Endless Space 2, simply because I'm watching The Expanse on a free trial of Amazon Prime, and I'm in a sci-fi mood, so I'm going to play a space game. I think that might be a 4X game as well. And we'll see what happens. And I'll probably do some abridged commentaries on other things in the future. If you want to see those other things, feel free to comment about it. Otherwise, I'll see you whenever. Thanks for watching this RPG gameplay commentary. Check out the playlists on my channel for more.